Okay, our next guest is a wonderful lady. She, on the first day of Art College, when she was 16, she met John Lennon, and she became good friends with all the Beatles, hung out with them. She's got plenty of stories to tell, so please get her up for the fabulous Thelma McGough, formerly Thelma Pickles.
Welcome back to your home city.
Yes, it's great to be here.
Yeah. Have you been to one of these events before?
I've never, ever been to one of these events or spoken about what we're going to discuss.
Okay. Move yourself a little bit closer to the mic. Yeah. So what is your surname now?
Still McGough.
McGough. Okay. So that's from your marriage to Roger McGough.
Yep.
And it's part of your extraordinary life, which is going to be publishing a book next spring. Is that right?
Yeah, next year, 2026, it's called From Me to You. From Me to You.
That's a perfect title. You know what? I'm not actually sure that's been used for a book title before. I mean, maybe I've several hundred books on the Beatles. Yours is not a Beatle book, of course, but it's about your life. But
it's 2 chapters. There's one on John and one on Paul, but the rest is all about me.
Yeah, well, fair enough, because it is your autobiography, so it shouldn't be about anything else, really. You were born in Liverpool. I wouldn't ask your age, but...
I'm 84 in 8 weeks' time.
It's fantastic. That's what you get when you don't ask, because I didn't ask it. I didn't ask your age, but I got it anyway. Okay. So that makes you a contemporary of John Lennon's. You were born in about 1941, 42,
yeah,
something
41.
Like that.
He was a year older. He was born in 40, I was born 41, Paul was born in 42, and I think George is a year younger. Is it
George was born in 43, yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to school, like, regular school, first primary school and then secondary school, and then you went to art school.
I went to art school at 13. At 11, I deliberately didn't answer any questions on the 11 plus exam so that I wouldn't pass, because you couldn't go to the art school till you were 13. And if you went to the art school, you could leave the art school at 16 and go to art college instead of waiting till you're 18.
Right.
So there's a difference between school and college.
Because it's forgotten now, isn't it? But across the road from the art school, on Gambier Terrace, I think it was a school for younger children of real school age.
Yeah, but you couldn't go till you were 14. You had to pass the 13 plus, which is like the 11 plus. I don't know why you couldn't go to 13. And then if you passed that academic one and you put down the art school, you did a day at the art school in Gambier Terrace, which was next to the family planning clinic.
Handy. So you deliberately getting every question wrong in your 11 plus?
No, I didn't answer any, just put my name on it.
That tells us something about your personality then, doesn't it? I mean, what kind of a girl would do that at the age of 11?
Determined. I'm still determined. I need to stay alive now, though.
Determined to do what?
I just wanted to be an artist. That's all I was interested in. And I heard about the school a fortnight before I was to sit the 11 plus. But you're constrained at that age, at that time. The teachers, your parents keep you in check. And so I didn't have a voice to say, which the book is about, not having a voice. I couldn't say, I don't want to go to grammar school. And I was meant to bring glory to the school like Cherie Blair and Gillian Reynolds and get one of these Margaret Bryce scholarships.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't, that's what he was looking for, so I couldn't let him down. But I didn't have the courage to say I don't want to do it, so I just got to the school, which was Holly Lodge, and sat there and put my name on and didn't answer. And then when the results came out, my headmaster had me up in the office and was apoplectic. His face went puce and he had little worms on his... What's the matter? I said, I don't want to go there. And he said, why not? What do you want to do? And I said, I want to be an artist. I want to go to art school. And he said, girls like you can't be artists and you'll end up broke in a garret. And I didn't know what a garret was. So when I went back to the class, I got the dictionary out and looked up garret.
Yeah.
And it said, a place to paint and be on your own. I thought, suits me.
Yeah, suits me, yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Cynthia was at the art school.
Yeah, she was the
wasn't
year ahead of me, yeah.
Yeah.
She was there. She's a lovely girl, very quiet. And
Yeah, yeah.
one of those girls that even in school uniform, I don't know, there are people in your class that are always neat. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
She was one of them.
One of them, right. And were you not then?
No, I was like the one who didn't want to wear the beret and didn't want to wear the skirt the right length, that kind of girl.
A real rebellious teenager then. Yeah.
I would have liked to have been, but you know, you get squashed, or you did those days, you know, you get a smack if you...
Yeah.
So I was caned so many times in school, it was ridiculous.
Huh, right. Okay.
One time, she said, put your hand out, and I just ran out the classroom, ran home. My mother was at work. I couldn't get in, so I went through next doors, climbed over the fence, and then I could hear all the teachers banging on the door, saying, oh, I don't know where she is, where's she gone? I thought, you're not caning me again.
Yeah, yeah. God, you really had a lot of spirit, obviously. So then you were into the art college itself. And
So I got there, yeah.
And you find yourself in with the crowd of, you know, John Lennon and Stuart Sutcliffe and all those people who were there at the same time.
Yep, I enrolled on the 15th, as you know, of September 1958, and on the first day I was introduced by a friend to John, and she said, this is Tony Carricker, this is John Lennon, and boys, this is Thelma Pickles, and he just took the piss out of me straight away. I thought, oh, steer clear of him, he's a dickhead. And then a girl came in who was also at school a year ahead in Cynthia's class, and she just said, oh, hey, John, I believe your mother's dead. Like, oh, hey, John, I believe you went to the dance last night. Oh. And then she was relentless. She said, and he, after me thinking he's a dickhead, he sat there, he didn't flinch, his expression didn't change, the leg swinging carried on. And I thought, and then she said, a policeman ran her over, wasn't it? And he went, yeah. And then she said, when was it? And he went, about a month ago. And he just didn't react. And I thought, God, this guy's something else. You know, he's really strong, he's really brave. And I just wanted to batter her because she never stopped. And so my view of him changed within seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, what a moment to be there. And yeah, she had died in July, and this was September. It was raw and fresh still.
Well, this was the 15th of September. You know the date when
she died in July the 17th,
yeah.
So it was 2 months.
There was no reaction. I thought, God, I want to be like him, because I had my own traumas, and I just wanted to, if anyone mentioned anything, I'd be like wanting to burst into tears. So I was really... thought, oh, I just want to be like him, you know, be impervious to all
the harshness of life.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it. I was going to use a swear word.
Well, don't let me stop you. What were you? It's 90, born in 41,
41,
so
yeah.
you're 17 years old. How does a 17-year-old
I was
girl?
16 when I joined at 58.
Okay.
I wasn't 17 till October.
Right. Okay.
That's the first proper conversation we had. A few days later, we both got off at the same bus stop at the end of the street, at Hope Street, and he smiled, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to smile back at you. But then he pointed to the hospital, Oxford Street Maternity Hospital, and he said something really weird. He said, I was born in there, and I thought, that's a bit weird. And I said, well, I was too. And he was all like, you know what lads, well, you might not, but lads are like. He was like, well, when were you born? I said, the 21st of October, 41, and then he was triumphant. He said, well, I was born 9th of October, 1940, so I'm a year older than you. And then we kept meeting at those bus stops accidentally in the morning, going to college.
Right.
And then he said, how did you come to go here? And I knew what he meant. He meant the art college. So I told him about failing my exam, and then he told me, oh, I passed my 11 plus, but the headmaster hated me. Pobby, he called him.
Bobby.
Pobby.
Yeah. Yeah, Pobjoy.
Mr. Pobjoy, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that. Yeah.
Yeah, extraordinary. So over this period of time meeting at bus stops and things, did something begin to emerge between you, a relationship of some kind?
Well, we had these conversations about the, youth and all that, and we used to all walk down Bow Street. It was very posh then, very sedate and sophisticated when we finished college. And people would peel off to get their bus. And Tony Carragher lived in Widnes, or Runcorn, I think. We used to get the train. And there was only the two of us left, so we just walked along Church Street. C&A's had like a walk around, and we used to look at the fashions. And you went go past Cooper's, which was an upmarket food place. And then he walked up to Castle Street. And we crossed the cobblestones, and he went up the steps, you can't go now, and sat underneath Queen Victoria's skirt. I followed him, sat next to him, so I was here, he was there. And I just said to him, do you live with your dad? And he said, no, I live with me Auntie Mimi. My dad pissed off when I was a baby. And I lived with my Auntie Mimi and Uncle George, but he's dead now too. And he didn't react emotionally again about the death of Uncle George. I was just really impressed by it. I thought, I want to be like that. And then I used his bad word, pissed off. So I said, oh, my dad pissed off too, but I was 10. And he just reached over and took my hand. And that was the beginning of the...
Yeah. So these show a side, obviously he's gone through a lot of trauma, but he's also still quite a human being, isn't he? Able to connect with other people and find, commonality there.
Well, he wouldn't do it in public, but he'd do it in private, And then he said, where do you live? I said, Knotty Ash. So then he started taking the piss again. You're one of the Diddy men as well. Oh, you're a pickled onion. Oh. She's like, I thought, oh. Anyway, he said, what bus did you get? I said, the number 10. And then he displayed this amazing knowledge of Liverpool bus routes. He said, why don't you get on my bus? You can get off at Queen's Drive. You can then get the 26, I think, to Shield Road by the ice rink, and then you can get the 10 from there. It's like,
wow.
And because I was poor, not now, I had those bus pass, so I thought, well, it's not going to cost me anything. So we went upstairs to the top of the bus, and then as we came towards Penny Lane, he said, can you come to ours later? I said, I don't know. Anyway, he took my sketchbook and did a sketch and drew Men Love and drew a little cat, I think, and Mimi and me. And he said, here you go, you get off at Vale Road. And of course, it's 3 buses, it takes forever. So I did go back. And I was waiting at Queen's Drive. The 72 bus that stopped outside his house only went every half hour. I missed it. So some guy pulled up in a Jag and offered me a lift. I thought, I'm not doing that. When I got off the bus, he was still there, bless him. And I told him about the lift, and he said, oh, people are posh around here, you should have taken it. And I thought, it's all very well for you to say that. The news of the world is full of stories of girls getting murdered, I'm not doing that. And so that was the first time I went to Mendips. And on the corner of Vale Road, I haven't been up there recently, there was this derelict cottage, like a farmhouse.
Yeah.
And also, there was an arch over the top of the road that went, went to the edge of the pavement. And there was lights, and there was all these kids running around. You could hear them. And I said, why are they still in school at this time of night? And he said, it's a home for naughty boys and girls. It's called Strawberry Fields.
Yeah, there was a remand home along there, just a few yards away.
I think that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the start of it all.
Right. How personal can we get in this conversation in front of an audience?
Well, you can ask, and if I don't want to answer, I'll tell you.
Right. How close did you and John get?
Well, as close as you can get under the bed covers. Will that do?
That will do. That will do. Yeah.
Sorry.
But
that wasn't allowed then, so...
Yeah. And it was dangerous.
I could say it now, yeah.
And it was dangerous.
And I was 17, probably by the time I went to Mendips. Nearly anyway. I had no idea how you got pregnant.
Yeah, that's why it was dangerous. I mean, yeah. But nothing happened, thankfully, in that respect. Or maybe not, thankfully. But anyway, nothing happened.
Well, there was a point when I was in the girls' cloakroom loo, And there were four girls there crying because two of them were going to have a baby. And I was in the cubicle, and I heard someone say, if you only, sorry about the language, if you only do it a week after a period and a week before, you won't get pregnant. I thought, I remember that. And then someone said, there's a West Indian nurse in Canning Street, you can get an abortion for 50 quid. I didn't know what that was. Yeah. And someone was talking to me, something happens with a knitting needle. I thought, this is too much. But I remembered how not to get pregnant after that, which was awkward because John was very demanding about when he wanted to see you.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And I didn't want to tell him what the reason was because it was too personal.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you.
Right. And all these people. Yeah.
And all these people.
Yeah. But I mean, these were very different times, and Liverpool was a very different place then. And the general knowledge was a lot less limited than it is now. I mean, now you can find out anything at any time. But in those days, you were relying on hearsay and little clues of information that you write down.
I have great-granddaughters that are talking sex at 9.
Yeah.
And I'm broad-minded, and I think, bloody hell, how did they know all that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's something else.
When I interviewed you for my book, Tune In, and you were very candid about why your relationship with John finished, it's not something we really want to talk about in public, but on the other hand, it would be naive to just assume everything's always wonderful. He was going through a troubled spell, and you were on the receiving end of that. Is that fair?
These days, I think even at school, he'd be called ADHD.
Well, ADHD.
ADHD,
yes.
now.
Absolutely, he would.
So he was full of fury and trauma, and so was I, and that's how we bonded. And we had something in common, and sometimes, eventually, it tips over, you know? And,
Frustration, yes, of course it happens. It absolutely happens. You know, I was talking to someone the other day about how everyone is labelled these days. Children are labelled.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got this, she's got that, whatever it
he'd
might
be labelled now.
Yeah, I mean, he went through all the classic circumstances of trauma there, but you just got on with it. There was no label attached, no special treatment.
You couldn't confide in anybody, and I'd never told anyone about my home background except him. And you kept it in, and there's something really primal, I think, about not having parents who support you, about people abandoning you, and you haven't got that backup. And it creates this, and also you feel as if you're on your own. So
yes, and that it's your fault in some way.
Yeah.
You're responsible for it.
And so he was full of fury, so was I. And at one time, he let loose, whacked me one. And he did try and make up for it, but I wasn't going to have it. So,
Yeah, that was the line that you had crossed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you carried on art school.
Yeah.
He left and went to Hamburg. We haven't even talked about Stuart, but we better press on.
Yeah.
Because let's jump to 1962 or 63, whenever it was, 62, I think, when Paul McCartney sees you. What's the story there?
63. So I left before John. He used to always take the piss out of Cynthia. He'd go, oh, here comes Miss Hoylake, you better watch your manners. But I thought, being a woman, I think he fancies her. So anyway, at the end of the summer term, 58, my first female friend who I met at college, who's here, said to me, oh, have you heard John Lennon's going out with Celia Powell? And I thought, oh, that's good, because she'll calm him down. And she said, you better go and warn her what he's like. And I said, no, she'll be good for him. And then my home circumstances were so strict, I thought, like the 11 plus, stupid thing, I'm going to get pregnant so I can leave home. So I did that. And I went from one jailer to another. And in the meantime, the Beatles took off. I kept hearing that they had, and I didn't know they were going to Hamburg. Anyway, I had a 2-year-old just been to my grandmother's. She'd fed us. And on the bus home, he crapped his nappy. And so he stank to high heaven. I had to carry him because the pushchair had been nicked outside my flat. And I got in, took his nappy off, cleaned him up, put a fresh one on, I wrapped it. I'm very finicky. I won't wash a dirty nappy, even though it was poverty-stricken. Put it in the Echo, rolled it up. I was going to go out to the bin with it and knock on the door. I opened it, and there was a guy I hadn't seen for 4 years. And when I knew him then, he had a school uniform on, and there he was in a black leather coat, a black polo neck, 18 inches tall. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And this is what he said, and I'm not claiming I'm the inspiration, just to make it clear. He said, "I saw you standing there, waiting to cross the road." So I said, "Well, how do you know where I lived?" He said, "I stopped the car and waited to see which flat you went into." I said, "Well, how did you know which flat it was?" He said, "I just knocked on all the doors."
He was that keen to find you, to see you.
So I said, "Watch the baby. I'm just going, and I'm sorry about the pong." I went and put the nappy in the bin, came back, and I said, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And you didn't drink coffee in those days. I was trying to teach myself to like it by buying that camp bottle with the Argyle Highlander being served. Anyway, and I said, "Yeah." So I made him a cup of coffee, and the only way I was teaching myself to like it was to put the milk in the pan and wait till it boiled to there, pour it in. I gave it to him. And you know how milk gets a skin on it? The skin stuck to his lip and it wouldn't go. Just like...
A white moustache.
So we were there, he was there for ages. We were all catching up. And he said, "Why don't you come and see us play?" And I said, "Okay." So he wrote his number on the back of the Garston 6922, wasn't it?
Correct. How do you remember that?
I've got an amazing memory. You'll see when you read the book. I've got an amazing visual memory I can remember from when I was that high. And he said, "I'll pick you up later." And I said, "I'll see if I can get a babysitter." And he took me to the Cavern. And he parked away from the Cavern. And I'd been to the Cavern. It used to be a jazz club. And, guys looking like their dads in tweed jackets and pipes, with Chianti bottles with red candles in. And so he parked a couple of streets away. I said, "Why have you done that?" He said, "Because girls write in lipstick on my windscreen." And, and then he leaned in the back and took out a towel. I said, "You're going swimming?" And he said, "No, but it's sweaty in there." And then as we came nearer, he said, "Stay close to me. Don't say anything. Girls might hit you," he said, "or pinch you." I thought, what am I getting into? And that was the first time. And then I met Scylla that night. He introduced me. He said, "This is Scylla. She sings too." That's what he said.
Huh. So Scylla, Scylla, who you went on to work with very, very well, very famously, was introduced to you by Paul?
Yeah, and Maureen was there as well. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So he goes to go home. He said, "I've got to go get changed." So he went to the vestibule door, and then he came back and he said, "Oh, come and meet our drummer, Ringo." So I followed him out to the curb, and Ringo had been sat in the car all that time. He'd been in my house. He just left him there.
I won't be a minute.
Yeah.
No, I'll be an hour.
He said, "This is Ringo." And Ringo, for people who aren't Scousers, there's different Scouse accents. Ringo's got a real South Liverpool dingle. Like, "Hello, how are you?"
All right. Yeah.
Little tidbit.
Yeah. So was that the start of something with Paul? Did you then have a romance?
Here's my diary from 1963.
Oh, you brought something with you?
I'm not allowed to give it to you.
Oh, your diary.
Yeah. So I can tell you that that on a certain date, Paul had a cold. Yeah. Oh, here's a funny night. Paul and John came round after playing the Majestic. And on that night, they'd been thrown on the stage little notes wrapped in money, and John had all the money in his pocket. And I'm not going to tell you what was in the notes. You'll have to buy the book, but they were pornographic.
Notes from girls making suggestions about things. Yeah.
So that was... But when Paul said, "I'll be round, but I'll be round late because we've got 2 shows or something." So the knock, I could hear people in the hall, and I thought, that's odd. So the knock went on the door, and I thought, I'd better see if it is him. And I said, "Who is it?" And I hadn't seen John since I was at college. He went, "It's the postman, missus." And this was about midnight.
Yeah.
And then they came in, I had to make coffee again, and they showed me these notes. John said, "Do you want to see something?" And Paul said, "I don't think she wants to see them, John."
Right.
And he just threw it, and I opened it, all crumpled. So I went, oh my God, that's...
Filth?
Yeah. I thought I was broad-minded, but I wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
So,
So Paul knew.
Yeah, it tells you what day they went to Newcastle. One day they're supposed to play Middlesbrough, and then it said they didn't play. Yeah.
Be the end of January, I think.
29th.
Yeah.
Quite right. Paul's at Middlesbrough. They didn't play, so he came round. Stayed. The next day, we got up at 1:30, went to town. It was very embarrassing because I don't know where my mind was, but I was in my own little circle. I didn't know they were that popular in Liverpool or anywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed to know him. And, you know, and then we turned the corner into Whitechapel, was it, where Nems was. And he said to me, we signed something there last week. And I was getting pissed off at this stage because everyone was coming up going, oh, Paul, what's your problem?
That was irritating you, was it?
No, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. So we went to is it not Philip's son and nephew? School Lane, there was a stationer's.
Yeah.
And he said, we've got so much fan mail, I've got to buy some paper to answer them. So we went downstairs to the stationery department. He bought, is it a ream? Like that size,
Yeah.
that thick.
Yeah.
He bought a fountain pen, he bought ink. And then we walked to the end of the street where John Lewis's or George Henry Lee's. There was a Lion's tea room. So we went upstairs, and then the waitress said, oh, can I have your autograph? And she walked away. I said, what's she on about? And he said, oh, it's this Beatle thing. And he said, I said, but she's nearly 40. And then he practiced his autograph. But he had a fountain pen, and if you're left-handed, the nib's not designed right. So he wrote, James, he kept writing James Paul McCartney. He filled the paper, James Paul McCartney. I said, why are you calling yourself James? That's your dad's name, isn't it? And he said, it's my name as well. And the nib kept catching on the paper because he was left-handed.
Yeah.
Little details, not significant.
Yeah.
But
But it was all happening so fast by this point, and within about
Yeah.
6-7 months, they're known by everybody.
Yes, so I've got a note in here. Paul starts a Helen Shapiro tour. And one night he's at Bradford, and he comes around after he's at Bradford. And then I don't see him. And then I'm ditched for Jane Asher, and who wouldn't? And it was only temporary anyway. And I had other boyfriends, to be frank.
Right, but a nice episode, very nice episode.
Yeah, it was...
Was he good with the baby, Nathan?
He was great. Many, many, many years later, a journalist from one of the tabloids rang me and said, is Nathan Paul McCartney's? Because they looked alike with the big eyes and stuff. And I said, no, but you can print it and then I'll sue you.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that over the years. I've heard that from quite a few people.
My son?
Yeah, that Nathan is Paul's child, yeah.
No.
But he's not.
No. But he did go up to be in music. He managed Happy Mondays.
Yeah.
But he's not Paul's.
Right. Time is running away. Because you were with Paul, you got to spend, and also later events, because you got together with Roger McGough.
Just after.
So Roger McGough was just forming the Scaffold, and Paul's brother Mike was one of the three, along with John Gorman. And there were others, actually, to begin with. It wasn't a trio at first. But so that took you into that McCartney orbit beyond your time with Paul, didn't it? How was all that?
We were often at Paul, as you know, bought that house for Jim in Rembrandt, and so we'd go over when none of us had tellies, so if Liverpool were in the final, we'd be going then. We went to Jim's marriage, Mike's marriage. Every Christmas, Paul came home, and they all played the piano. We'd all go outside, and
the famous McCartney New Year's Eve parties,
yeah.
right? Big family gatherings, everyone drunk,
fantastic.
everyone singing,
Absolutely fantastic.
all playing the piano.
Yeah, and Jim playing piano. Yeah, it was just such an embracing family, you know. And I think, this is my opinion, you can quibble with if you want, I think that's why he wasn't as traumatized as John about losing his mother, because he had this network of anti-Gin and anti-B and anti, you know. And everything.
But he came from a more encompassing, embracing family anyway.
Yeah.
And then when Mary died, by all accounts, all the aunties and uncles, particularly the aunties, stepped up and made sure that the children were, still had a good maternal influence in their life.
Yeah. And after a scaffold thing, it was kind of forerunner of Graham Norton. It's called Gazette, the guy called Jimmy Lloyd in Manchester. So every week there was we used to call them a charabanc, but it's a single-decker bus. We'd wait outside this hotel at the side there.
Of the Adelphi here.
Yeah, and Jim and I used to sit on the front seats for a crowd to go to be in the audience. For this,
so they bus the
this
Liverpool
show.
audience to Manchester.
They bus the Liverpool audience.
Right.
So Jim and I, got to be quite good friends.
Tell us about Jim McCartney.
Oh, just the kind of dad you'd want. I didn't have one. And he's just the kind of dad that you want. He was caring, he was gentlemanly, he's polite. And, he didn't favour the famous son over the other son. He was a real cool guy. He was lovely, just delightful. And then we'd go to Auntie Gin's sometimes to watch the scaffold, the TV programme.
Yeah.
Diners Lane, yeah.
Diners Lane, Huyton, yeah.
So it was, he was very embracing family.
Yeah.
And Nathan was there. There's a picture of Mike's wedding of Nathan, who was no longer 2 with shit in his pants. He was an 8-year-old, and he's standing there looking up at Paul as Paul's reading the congratulations.
Yeah, the telegrams were read out.
And then there's another one with the vicar who's got his hand on Nathan's shoulder. I sent it to Nathan and said, "What's that vicar doing with his hand on your shoulder?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're much more suspicious than we used to be of innocent moments like that. Yes. Probably innocent moments, yes.
I'm sure it was absolutely fine.
Yeah. So, quite often when you end a relationship, that's it. But even though you were not going out with Paul anymore, you still saw Paul, but you saw him with his girlfriend instead.
Yeah.
You saw him with Jane.
And Jane was lovely. And they sent Nathan, they made a card for Nathan for his 5th birthday. And Nathan had a fag in his mouth with all the smoke. I was like, oh, anyway, I didn't keep it, and Nathan's never forgiven me.
Oh, wow. So they did a hand-drawn card for Nathan's birthday, and you threw it away.
I think they cut out a
kept your diary, but you threw the card away.
They cut out a photograph that Mike had taken of Nathan and stuck it on this thing, and then they'd drawn a fag in his mouth and all the smoke.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. And
it is lovely.
And then once...
Might have been a joint even.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Don't get me on that. Another time I was at McCartney home, Rembrandt, and Paul had brought Tara Brown, who was dead posh, to stay. And they both went out on mopeds. And Paul didn't come back for ages. And then when Paul came back, he had stitches in his lip. He'd come off the bike, and he'd had to go. He didn't tell any of us, or his dad, or anyone. He came back with this thick lip of stitches in and said that he'd gone to Jim's doctor, and he'd taken a coin out of the drawer and told him to bite on it while he stitched it.
I think it was more like a vet than a doctor.
Well, I don't know. It was.
But,
he came back with a thick lip anyway.
He got away, a little bit of a scar still on Paul's lip.
You can see the difference. You'll know the date. You're the genius on this. You can see the before and after photographs.
Yeah, there is a difference there. And he got Mike to take some pictures of him with all blooded and bruised face.
Did he?
Yeah, to say, I want to record the moment. And there's a couple of pictures circulating of Paul all beaten from a crash, yeah. But that's quite a significant event, really.
Is it?
Yeah, because ultimately, a year later, they grew the moustache. He grew a moustache and then shaved it off again, but then they grew another one. And that was the Beatles' beard and moustache period. Yeah. So you were witness to things, even if you didn't realize it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, my memory is pretty excellent. I can see it and hear it and write it. And
Yeah. Then you went to London, is that right? Did Roger move to London and you went with him? Is that how it worked?
God, that was a long... The next one significant time was I was working for a fashion buyer at the Bosma Bulls. It was a shop called the Cinder Buyer. Anyway, I was supposed to be going to the garment district in London and buying clothes, and I was at the top of Argyle Street where the Palladium is, which is Oxford Circus, about to cross the road, And an open top car pulled up for the lights. I wasn't paying attention. I heard, Thelma, jump in. And it was Paul with Martha sat on the back seat.
Oh.
And then I was supposed to be working. So I jumped in and then we drove all around Knightsbridge. And then he said, do you want to come and see my house? And he's saying, how are you doing? And I was telling him what was it. And I thought, it's daft to ask Paul McCartney how he's doing. So
That's a pity, though, isn't it?
We drove around Knightsbridge, and then he said, do you want to come and see my house? So I said, yeah. And then I should be at work. And then he said, do you want to stay the weekend? There was no hanky-panky. That's what that underlined.
Yeah.
Nearly, but there wasn't. And yeah, so then he said, do you want to come and see Jimi Hendrix? So I'd heard of. I wasn't into music. I know it sounds sacrilegious to all you guys, but I don't have one song on my phone, and my great-grandchildren go bananas. Why have you not got a song on your phone?
Yeah.
So I said yes, so we went to see Hendrix, and then we went to a restaurant downstairs in Beecham Place called
Parks, probably, yeah.
And I didn't know, it wasn't just him, Marianne was there, George and Mick Jagger. And it was
Isn't it
before,
great? You just
it was before
up in
his
a car.
vegetarian days, and so
Yeah.
I thought, I'm just going to order what Paul had ordered. So he ordered lamb chops and cherries, and I'm still in Liverpool, a hick, and I'm thinking, oh, cherries and lamb, you know, fruit and meat. Anyway, it came, it looked all the juice from the cherries looked like the lamb had just been killed, and on top of that, there was a row of flowers all around the outside of the plate, and I thought, are you meant to eat the bouquet as well? It was just weird.
Yeah.
And then there was fun who was going to pay the bill. That's in my book. You'll have to wait and read that in the book.
All right.
I was thinking, I hope it's not me. I haven't got enough money.
I know there's one more episode in your book which I want to talk about, and then we're going to have to wrap it up anyway. But you also saw John later, didn't you, in the London years? What happened there?
Yeah, so when the scaffold was singing Lily the Pink and stuff, we'd go to Ready, Steady, Go. We got friends with Patrick Kerr and Teresa Kerr, who were the dancers every week on Ready, Steady, Go. So I was staying at their house. Teresa just had a baby. Patrick said, do you want to come and see the birds? Yeah, okay. Again, I'm not a music...
Whoever they are.
No, I had heard of Tambourine Man or whatever. And we got in a cab. I thought we were going to wherever they were on, and we ended up in a kind of posh Coronation Street. We went through an arch, and there was this... It's like... They're called Muse houses. Anyway, knock on the door. Brian Jones opens it with a big Tom Jones blues on.
Right.
Shirt on. And he said, oh, I'm not ready, come in. So he went in, we sat on the sofa. I was thinking, God, this is the kind of wallpaper my mother would choose, you know. And then a knock on the door, Patrick answered it, and in breezes John and George, and I made myself an outfit, which was like a close hood, what's now known as a bodycon. And I made stockings. There were no tights in those days, and you always had a gap between the miniskirt and anyway. So John and George breeze in, and it's a while before John clicks, and then he goes, oh, it's Pickle. Is Wilfred still your dad? No, John. And then we went to a club, it was supposed to be a club. It looked like a misused, reused office space called Blazers in a hotel.
Yeah.
To see the birds, and John and George stood on the chairs at the back, and then they all went upstairs afterwards and to take drugs.
Right, but left you downstairs, did they?
No, Patrick, because his wife had just had the baby, we went.
Right.
And I wasn't into drugs. But the night after the restaurant thing with Mick and Marianne, it was like, where should we go now? It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And we go to Bob Fraser's flat.
Right. Yeah, Robert Fraser, the art dealer.
That was packed with a whole pile of fey people, and they all sat on the floor. I don't like sitting on floors, I am pernickety. But anyway, it was full of people. There was talk of Clockwork Orange, Mao's Red Book. Marianne rolled a massive joint. They handed it round. And I'm not prudish, but I don't like not being in control. And the once, maybe twice I've tried dope, it makes you gaga, and I don't like that. So
Right, okay.
I refused.
Yes, well, we're going to have to find out more from your
You're going to have to
book.
find out all the rest of the tales
From your
when my
blooming
book
book.
comes out. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Why have you decided to write a book, and when is it out? And what's it called?
It's
again?
out. It's called From Me, i.e. the writer, to you, the reader, and obviously you'll all know the song, and it was the first number one, wasn't it?
Second number one.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Thank you for your correction. I just got asked over the years about would I do this, would I do that, would I do what we're doing, and I just thought, oh no, it just felt like not right, and now it feels right.
Yes.
And it's not just, it's a chapter on Paul, there's a chapter on John, but the rest is all about me and my childhood and what Liverpool was like and how it made us.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the same Liverpool as the Liverpool we see when we step outside now, is it?
It was post-war. There were bomb sites everywhere, bombies. There was the threat of national service hanging over John and Tony Carricker and all those.
Yeah.
Mohammed had already done national service. And it was black. It was like a city that had a cloak of mourning, and it's because of the soot. And then when there was fog, you were let out of college or school early to walk home because there was no buses.
Pea supers.
Yeah, pea supers. It was... And this is the one thing I want to say before we finish.
Yeah.
We were always looked down on in Liverpool, always. And my mother used to line me and my sister up. We're going to camp with the guys. Don't tell anyone you come from Liverpool. If you're asked, just don't say.
Yeah.
And I was in 1966, I was at a Vogue lunch because a piece I'd written was a finalist. And these people, the editor of Vogue, I was sat next to him, she said, oh, you're from Liverpool, aren't you? And I think, oh my God, I can't say. This is 66.
Yeah.
And then all these posh girls were going, oh, that must be frightfully nice to come from Liverpool, exciting. Yeah. And then I came home, I went round to see my friends, Gillian Reynolds, Stanley Reynolds, and I said, the biggest thing I've learned today is it's okay now to say you come from Liverpool.
Yeah.
And they did that for us.
Yeah.
And then they pissed off and left, but then so did I. And I did as well, so I'm not judgmental.
There's, to finish off one thread of a story, and you pick my words carefully, is that we haven't mentioned yet, and that is that some things never change, do they? And that is the top you're wearing.
This is the same one. I've kept it for it's nearly 70 years old.
There is a picture of Thelma in her art college days wearing that very same garment, and it survives.
I'm lucky it still fits me. I've kept it not because of that, but because it was the first piece of expensive clothing. I didn't buy it myself. It was a gift from an admirer. But I used to ogle it in Bold Street in Jaeger's window, and it was 4 guineas. And one day I walked up there, and it wasn't there, and I was in tears. And then on my birthday, it was presented to me by somebody.
Marvellous.
So I've kept it.
Well, you look good in it still after
you.
all these years. Thank you very much, Thelma Pickles, Thelma McGough.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for, there we go. Give it up for Thelma McGough. That was fantastic.